And again, back to the YouTube University, the challenge is, and I think we all kind of face this in the beginning, is without a coach, it's so easy to get shiny object syndrome. Like you said, everyone has the right answer. Everything that you see on YouTube is possible and tangible. But if you're kind of just trying one of everything, you're never going to get anywhere. And like I'm guilty of it. When I first got into coaching, like not necessarily under your advisement, but like I bought every comping tool. I bought, everything imaginable.
Right.
And still through the first year, it was like, okay, should I go try to learn tax deeds, and should I try this and that? And so like not having a coach to guide you and just tell you like, hey dude, like just chill out, which I think we've had to have that conversation quite a few times. It I think it's just a lot of time wasted.
What is up, the Science of Flipping family? I am back with one of my most special guests of all times. And I know at times I can say that a lot, but this one is near and dear to my heart because he is a student of mine. He has been a long time Science of Flipping coaching student, as well as an REILive.co member. And he has crushed it over the last year and a half to 2 years, and he went all in on this business. He was making six figures in his other job. He said, enough of that. Let me go all in on creating my life by design. And he is one of those shining examples that I want to highlight here on the Science Flipping podcast. My man, Anthony Cota, is in the house.
That's right, brother. Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. So I want everyone who is newer in this industry, everyone who's having challenges in this industry, anyone who is trying to break in as a real estate investor, trying to figure out how to do their first deal, or maybe you've done a couple. I want everyone to pay attention to this because he is my student, has been for about a year and a half, 2 years, something like that, right?
Yep, about 2 years. Yep.
About 2 years at the Science of Flipping coaching, but also has joined the newest coaching, which is REILive.co. So check that out. It's only $200 a month at REILive.co, 5 days a week. So much so that he is actually one of the leaders in the group that helps other people get the deals done. But I want people to hear your story, and not just the story at 30,000 foot. We're going to dive into your first deal and your second deal and how you got them. But I also want them to understand where you came from in the sense of 9 to 5 job, killing you, newborn, not seeing your family, and had to make a change. Why don't we just kind of start there? What were you doing? What did it all look like? And then ultimately, how did you find me?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I think, I always find the 9 to 5 talk funny because I think anyone knows that has been in any type of sales industry before, it ends up being more like as soon as you open your eyes to as soon as you go to bed,
8 to
whatever
8.
that looks like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean I was in the car industry, 4 years. So just like we were just talking about, 8 hour days were not really relevant to me. It was more like 12, 16 hour days. And
Yeah.
that kind of laid 6, 7 days a week. Um and I don't want to say it's necessarily like burnout that got me to a place where I wanted more, because I don't like to say that about myself, that there's any sort of burnout there, but a perspective that I had, that the burnout didn't even come from me, it was more from my family. So from putting in those 12, 16 hour days, 5, 6, 7 days a week, missing the birthdays, missing the sports games, not going to any family member's wedding, like pretty much limiting everything to try to grow a life for us, quickly realized that the time part was more important than the money. So we kind of had to reverse engineer um, where we wanted to be, right? And so we
Yeah.
we took a step backwards and started with time first, and then started looking for money. And I think that's how we came across to you. We were looking for avenues and always found real estate as a vehicle that could get us that time back as well as that money on the back end. And funny enough, my wife actually caught you on a Grant Cardone episode, um, and
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we gotta check out this Justin Colby guy." And I was like, "Man, like I've never heard of him, but I know Grant. Like I've watched him for a while, and dude,
Big shout out to
gotta."
GC. Big shout out to
That's right.
BT. I appreciate it, Grant, putting me on and,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, it's funny because on our first call, or like how I got introduced to your program, you kind of challenged me. Because the reality is we sat down for a while because it was kind of like a week, like before we made the decision to join your program. And one of the things that you said that kind of still rang true to me to this day, because we were pretty much ready to tell you no. Like that was the decision that we made. Like, hey, this is too risky. We don't really know this guy, all the excuses that everyone makes, right? And I remember getting on a hold and kind of looking over at my wife and just asking her like, "Man, like we've spent so much more money on way stupider things than to actually just invest in ourselves. So like,
Mm.
what are we actually risking here?"
Right.
So yeah, again, that was, you know, 2023, May of 2023, and here we are, man. It's been such a blessing to be a part of this community and, be you always say, do business with people who you know, like, and trust, and I definitely think over 2 years we've developed that for sure.
Yeah, I want to kind of go into the mindset that you talked about because I think you've heard me say this, and I think everyone has heard me say this to some extent. There's 5 principles in my world, and maybe there's a 6th, but there's really 5 that I believe to be just true, regardless of what you're doing. But it's like success principles in life, not just in business. But the first thing is you need to decide what you want, and that's what you and Ashley really had to sit down and figure out, right? And then
Yep.
as a part 1A and 1B of that, you have to decide what you want as 1A, but then you have to decide who you need to be to get it.
That's
And
right.
that is the bigger conversation, right? Is what do I not want? I want to not miss my family's birthdays. I want to not miss my family's weddings. I want to not miss this. So what do I want? I want more time. I want to be at these things. I want to have more time with the kids and the wife and the weddings and the birthdays. So that's what I want. And then who do you need to be to get it? And I think that's a really big takeaway that you did really, really well. The reason why you're here right now is because I've always admired that you are like cut from the same thread I am, which is you're willing to do whatever it takes to get the thing that you want because you decided what you wanted.
Absolutely, man. And funny enough, I was lucky enough to learn this at a really young age, is to find a person that emulates the life that you wanna live,
Mhm.
So I got really granular on my wife and I both, like, that person not only needs to have the finances that we want, but they need to have the family that we want. They need to have the kids, raising them the way we want our kids to be raised. So, obviously through time, that it didn't happen on our first phone call, but we found that out, through coaching with you for 2 years now, like that's kind of the development process that we needed. Like we needed someone that had all those aspects of life that we are looking for. And just like you were saying, is I had to find out who I wanted to be. And then,
Mhm.
great mentor once told me, you have to find that person who's doing exactly what you want to do and just beg them to help you. And luckily,
Yeah.
here we are.
As many of you know, I'm constantly on the move, juggling multiple businesses, traveling, and ensuring I get my morning workouts in. Staying fresh isn't just a preference, it's a necessity. But let's face it, after back to back meetings, juggling 2 kids at home, and the hustle and bustle of everyday life, body odor can become an issue. But here's the deal Mando has revolutionized how I stay fresh. This isn't just another deodorant, it's clinically proven to control odor better than a shower alone with soap. My favorite scent, bourbon leather, it's fresh, is subtle, and doesn't clash with my cologne. And I was surprised by how well the solid stick works, even after an intense morning workout. Mando's starter pack is perfect for the new customer. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like a mini body wash or a deodorant wipe, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners and new customers, you get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% of your starter pack. Use code Colby at shopmando.com. That is SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from the head to the toe with Mando. And funny enough, I've done a lot of coaching in my life. Like I've cut checks for coaches.
Yeah.
I've cut checks to be a part of masterminds. I am a product of what I created. So the science of flipping and now more recently reilive.co is developed because I understand what was given to me from others, right? In the knowledge and the wisdom. The difference between just simple knowledge and wisdom is the act of going through it, right? They've gone through it, so they have the wisdom of experience. And so what I do at REI Live .co is to really help you guys do deals. But part of that is just the simple understanding of I'm way further down the path than most of you. Not in all segments of life. I think you've even actually been married longer than I have, right? But we have you started earlier.
Yeah.
But we have a similar, you know, desire to be family men, to be lions, to provide for the others. And that's what keeps the connective tissue. But also, it is really important for all you guys watching this and listening to this. And I don't care if it's reilive.co or not. If you are not investing in someone that is further down the path than you want to be, don't complain about not having the thing that you want. Okay, that's my suggestion. If you want the thing, make the investment, right? And that's why I created reilive.co at a price point of $200 a month, is because I'm well aware of all the coaches, which used to be me, right? When you first joined, I had the classic $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 coaching, but now reilive.co is $200 a month because I can help more people if I allow myself to open up the gates more. Um, and so going back to kind of what we're talking about here is your commitment to say, I wanted something different. You were working as a car salesman. You were
Yep.
working 80, 90-hour weeks.
On the clock, yeah. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows how many hours off the clock, but yeah, about.
Yeah. And I mean, weekends were torched, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so you said I had to make a change. Now, how was the start of your journey? How was the start of you breaking into real estate, right? You didn't quit your job, because I'm not a coach that tells people to quit their job. Like I don't just say, all right, go all in, burn the boats, blah, blah, bro. I say, listen, you have kids, you have a wife, like you got to pay the bills. I get it, but let's set up a plan. Let's set up a, you know, structure so you can reach a certain level of goal and or see the light at the end of the tunnel, and then you can quit your job, right? So how was that initial journey while working full time with the newborn, with a wife, and now bringing on what I would call at the time, your second baby? Now this would be your third baby, but like,
Yep.
that when you create a business, this is our baby. It's our wife. It's our next thing. It's our love. It's our best friend. It is the thing that takes our time just like family would, at least
100%.
for successful people. Some people treat their business like shit, but um, how did you bridge that gap? How did you change it? How did what did you do?
Yeah, I mean, man, when I first started, again, working full time in the car industry, I had to start waking up earlier. So I drove an hour for work. So I'd already have to wake up at, 6:30 to make it to work by 8. I'd realistically start waking up at 4 to start dialing people on the East Coast because I live on the West Coast. And just making adjustments like that in their lives. So, I'd take lunch breaks to be on the calls, to be on the coaching calls. I'd spend my nights comping properties, like, after the kids go to bed. So, I mean, people always say, you think you're gonna quit your 9 to 5 for, like, freedom, but, you end up getting a 24/7. And that's how it looked like for me, up until I actually got the opportunity to leave my job. And the funny thing is that journey was about 8 months, right? From when I met you until I actually quit my job. And under you kinda go back to not telling people to burn the boats, and that was kinda your advisement towards me. And I was just like, "Hey, man, like, I have so much faith in what's happening here. Let's just go ahead and set them aflame."
You
So
you just didn't listen to me. I mean, now by the way,
yeah,
you've always really listened to me, but
right.
this one you just said, I'm done. Like I'm up to my
Absolutely.
threshold and it's over.
Yeah, 100%, man. And it's kinda like I spoke on before, like, it wasn't because of my burnout, because I'm just like you said, we're cut from the same cloth. Like, I can go 100% all day, every day, get 4 hours of sleep, wake up the next day, be ready to go again. But man, my family was getting burnt, like, they were getting torched. Again, no weekends, like, not even a thought of a weekend. Luckily, kids weren't in school yet, we were dealing with newborns, but, when you have a wife that is just coming off a pregnancy and, we're preparing for another one, like, it's
A
not
lot.
easy for them, and having a separated husband, like, we were kinda living 2 different lives. She was
Yeah.
being a parent to our kids, and I was being an employee to this business. So, that journey, it lasted about 8 months, again, of just grinding. early mornings, late nights, and just giving all my spare time, even at work. Again, I was lucky enough to work at a job that allowed me breaks to where I can get on calls and learn the information. But just really long days in the beginning.
Yeah, and this is, it's funny. We talk about your, job and no weekends and working to the bone and 80, 90 hours a week on clock and 30 hours a week. Like, and then people take this, like creating their own business, entrepreneurship, and they treat it like dirt, right?
Yeah.
They don't take the same amount of sacrifice. Most people are willing to do that for a boss, their boss. Their boss says, I need you to work 80 hours a week. All right, boss, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what my dad did. My grandpa did. This is what happens. It's blue collar. You work. Not disrespecting it. But then you go start your own business and you don't take that same work ethic in your own business. And that was actually what I see to be your breaking point is you're like, I can't give my own business, my own journey, my own life the same amount of time I'm giving this car dealership. And that's where you broke and said, I need to be able to invest the same amount of time. Because if you do, you'll ultimately reach the reward, which is the bigger thing, the more time. And, I got a very sweet text message. Your wife the other day was so proud of you with your son at baseball practice. And she was like, thank you, for everything because you now get to have those moments. And that's, again, money is great. And I want you guys to be beyond rich. But like at the end of the day, that is ultimately what it boils down to. And you couldn't do that by serving two masters, right? Like I say it kind of funny, but I say you can't date two chicks at the same time. Like it never works out, right?
Right, right.
Someone loses. And so you made the right choice, but you guys listening,
Yeah.
I'm not telling you to quit your job either. And neither is Anthony, I don't think. I just think you need to really make a decision. Like, are you going to put forth the effort? Right? Because if you are going to hold a job and start your business and be a real estate investor, what are you sacrificing? And I mean, give some examples of the things you were sacrificing doing all this. I mean, weekends, toast,
Yeah. And
mornings,
like,
night. I mean,
yeah, I mean, honestly, and it kind of, I don't want to say like hurts me to mention this on camera, but like there's even my own kids' birthdays that we've sacrificed, like our own, holidays. Like we've never put too much emphasis on, like those additional holidays, like Valentine's Day and all those things. Like we
sure.
make very short work of them, but I mean, we've sacrificed just about everything.
Yeah.
And on top of finances,
Yeah.
like we kind of went into this solely based off faith, just through the understanding, like, hey, there can't be another way. And just like you were saying before, like can't serve two masters. Like when I go into something, I'm kind of all in. So I
Yeah.
realized, like working in the car industry, I was kind of half-assing both, and it started to affect me as well.
For sure.
Um, so yeah, I mean, when it comes down to sacrifice, I mean, man, we were willing to sacrifice it all.
Or at least
Nights,
and to some
weekends.
extent, I know you have, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and we don't have to go into everything you're doing right now, but, being a lender and all this other stuff. But
Yep.
I think this is not for everybody. And what I'm about to say is not for everybody, but it is also for everyone. This is why the first principle of success is that decide what you want. Because Anthony Cota could have effectively kept his job and done a couple deals a year. Probably not much more, right? I mean, you were pretty time restricted, but
Right.
you might have made an extra 20, 50, maybe 100 grand a year, which would have been nice, but wouldn't have been fulfilling.
Yep.
Am I correct by saying that? Right? Like, sure, more
100%.
money, but I'm still working 90 hours at the dealership and I'm still missing weddings. And does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so the advice that I think everyone should hear, but also you need to make your own decision is you need to very quickly get to the point of, excuse me, what do I want? And be clear on it. And I'm not just talking about like, what's my why type thing. I'm talking about like, what is the vision of what you're trying to do for the rest of your life? And if it's not congruent with the work you're currently doing, the time you're currently spending, then you need to rewire pretty quickly. Again, I'm not telling you to quit your job, but the sooner the better if that's not congruent. right? For some of us men, right, it is the providing mentality. I need to keep my job. I need to provide. I get that. That's why I don't force people to quit their job. But the faster you can get to like, I'm ready to live my actual life and not just what historically speaking men do, then that's what you need to decide. And I haven't even gone to the other 4 points of success, but this is the main one. And that's why I think ultimately, no, even though in the last 2 years you still are not where you would like to be, but I also don't think 2 years is enough runway to measure where you're at, right? I mean, the
Right.
reality is this is gonna be a lifelong journey in real estate for me and for you. I'm not where I wanna be. I've done this for almost 2 decades, dude, right? I'm still not where I
Yep.
wanna be. Now, am I a lot further than sleeping on a couch? Of course. But,
Right, right.
I think that's really important for people to understand is what you're talking about. At what point is enough enough? And then
Yeah,
go.
and totally, and I'll kinda touch on that just for a second. I was making a couple 100 grand a year, like, on autopilot in the car industry. Started to become where I was starting to get repeat business, stuff like that. But one thing that you kinda touched on again is, like, purpose, like, who do we wanna be as men? Again, we all have that kind of provider instinct that, like, hurts if you can't do those things. But one thing that my wife and I decided, like, when leaving the car industry, because I didn't do a single deal when I decided to quit. I had 2 deals that blew up in my face, like, on closing day, so that's always fun, but I hadn't done a
Yes.
single deal yet when I decided to quit. Um, and it was solely based off of the idea of just like you said, like, where do we wanna be in the future? Like, I know financially, like, I probably coulda gotten to where we wanted to be somewhat in the car industry. I don't know if I woulda had a relationship that stood on it, you know? So,
Right.
like, when it comes to making the leap, like, and, we talk about this often, like, it comes down to a decision of who you wanna be in the future, right? Like, I knew that more important to me was my family walk, like, the finances came second, and that's kinda going back to what I said earlier, like, we kinda had to flip the script on what it is that we're actually seeking,
Mm,
because before it's kinda like money first, family came second, and so turning that around to family first and then money second, um, and then I think that's what convinced us to make the ultimate leap, but we had to sit down with each other and just say, "Hey, like, we've built whatever we built, no big deal. We're 30 years old. If we happen to lose it all in the next 2 years based off of us taking this risk, like, we'll lose it all, like, literally every single thing. We'll sell our houses, we'll sell our cars, like, if we come out of this thing in 2, 3 years and we're, God forbid, 33, 35, and we're back at 0 and we have to start over, like, we had 3 to 5 years of spending time with each other, getting more time with family that we ever had, and just living life on our terms, and that was the number 1, like, dream that we had as a
mm.
family since, like, we first met was, "Hey, like, we want freedom to make choices for ourselves, not someone else making the choices for us." So,
I
at
love
the end
that.
of the day, even if we went down to 0, man, like, the 3 to 5 years is a dream come true.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it's gotta be. It's worth the risk, right? Because
Yeah.
you get the time. Like, you and I are technically right now, like, in a very similar scenario with our children. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you, if I didn't have children right now, could I be making more money? Probably. Because I take the time to be with my children.
Yep.
And dude, it is the greatest moment of my life, right? And I'm sure you would agree, right? Our kids are literally like so close in age, it's crazy. It's like we
Yeah.
planned it. Um, but dude, I literally this weekend I was like, this is the greatest time of my life right now watching these 2 grow because we have this window with kids, right? Where they're not really that cute anymore when they get into the 8-year-old, 10-year-old, right? They start to
Right.
get stinky and kind of like so like we have this window and it's just I'm enjoying it. And I think many of you out there might not be relating to this because maybe your kids are older. Maybe you don't have kids. But I wanted the understanding of what is important in life is living your life on your terms, like Anthony just said. That is all that actually really matters in this life because one of my mentors told me, invest in current living.
Hmm, that's good.
And that is the very same thing that Anthony is talking about. It is not about leaving it to your kids or your grandkids. It is not about hoarding it. It is not about how much is in your savings account. It is the current life that you have is one round. You get one trip on this roller coaster. It always ends, by the way. No one has ever made it out of this roller coaster alive. And And he said, dude, invest in current living, make money and spend money. Respectfully, he's not saying go buy boats and be an idiot. He's just saying, like, do the things, invest in current living. And it's the same thing about being present and, creating your life, right? That you want to live. And so let's dive into a little bit of real estate. I know I wanted people to get the headspace of what you've done, why you've done it, the commitment you've done, because I need people to really get serious about this, because real estate can create the very best life anyone has ever dreamed about, ever, right? Now let's talk about some of your deals. It took you 8 months, I think, 9 months and some
It's probably
change.
like 9-ish, 9, 10 months. Yeah.
So you and I, again, we're like same person. Took me 9 months to get my first deal.
Right.
Took you about 9. And I was coaching you, by the way. So it wasn't that you didn't know what to do. I was lost. I didn't have a coach.
Yeah.
Um, but it's, again, 2 deals blow up at the closing table, buyers flake, like walk us through that kind of initial journey for the first handful of deals and what it all looked like.
Yeah, so, again, that was a challenge, and I respect the coaching aspect a lot because I think without having a coach, like, I would have given up on those first 2 blown up deals. Like, the way they happened, how it all happened, like, if I didn't have someone there in my corner to tell me, like, "Hey, man, everything's gonna be okay. Like, there's gonna be another deal that's coming along. Like, don't worry about X, Y, and Z." I probably wouldn't have made it past those first two deals. So just speaking on just that really quick, like, for all the people who more so believe in like YouTube University is the way to go, I think you can get by doing that. But man, I just find it hard to believe that if you don't have someone in your corner, like it's going to take you much longer and be much more difficult to get to that next step. But um, so yeah, then my first real deal came in January of 24. Came from, that 10 months or 9 months, however long it was, of literally just dialing agents, day in, day out, 5 to 10 agents a day, follow-ups. And I mean, it wasn't a huge deal by any means. I think my first deal was like a $5,000 deal. Um, I want to say it was in Birmingham, Alabama, of all places, which, beautiful place to invest, but
Yeah, 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 yeah. Which I own a lot of real estate in.
yeah, definitely. But yeah, I mean, it really just came from outbound agent outreach. I think that's where my first handful of deals came from because I didn't really have any, I didn't have the funds or honestly the confidence to go and start doing any off market acquisitions or anything like that. So I'd say my first handful of deals, 3, 4, 5 deals, all just came from talking to agents of properties that were already listed.
Yeah. Again, shocker, I coached you. That's exactly how I got my first deal, right? You just were ahead of the curve in the fact that you have software now, REI Lead Machine and others that can actually give you access to listings. And I was just cold calling realtors.
Crazy.
It's funny, a lot of people, and I still to this day, REILive.co, we focus for the people that don't have marketing budget, we focus on realtors. And the reason being, people say all the time, you need to find motivated sellers. Like that's our industry quote. Like, oh, what's the best way to find motivated sellers? They are literally everywhere because they're on the MLS. There's no higher sign of motivation than a listed property. They're trying to actively sell their home. Now, what we need to do is be good negotiators and salesmen and show the other side the value that we see and why, right? And if you do that, then you can win the game. But going and getting a free deal is great. I want to say the national average on deal cost is about 5 grand if you talk about spending money. And that's on average across platforms. So it could be a little bit higher or a little bit lower depending. But if you make 10 grand on ad spend, you're effectively netting 5 just from the cost of the deal. But if you go to get a deal from a realtor for free and make 5 grand, you've netted the same amount and you didn't have to go spend the money and take the risk. So I'm still a massive proponent of working with realtors. That's how many deals did you do out of the gate kind of with realtors before you started spending money on marketing?
I was probably at like deal 10 to 12 before I started spending any money on marketing.
You did 10 or 12 deals with realtors before you started spending money.
Yep.
You must have a
Yeah.
great coach. Uh,
Yeah, no doubt, man.
well,
And one thing I want to like people to understand, is like one thing that you said that kind of resonated with me is like off market is great. Like I think there's a lot of potential there. but realtors can feed you forever. You know, if you get 10 good realtors on your side that can feed you 1 or 2 deals a year, again, just kinda like I was talking about in the car industry, like, you almost get to go on autopilot, and then everything
Mhm.
after that is just cherry on top. Once you build that trust and relationship, people know you can close, know you're honest, ethical, like, you get they start feeding you deals without you having to go search for them.
Yep. Yeah, no, that is one thing that people don't realize. You build a good relationship with a realtor and they will feed you forever. And it's not like you can buy, typically, most homeowners own one home. So typically you do one deal with one homeowner, it's great, but you're done. Realtors will feed you for I still do deals with realtors in Phoenix. I haven't lived in Phoenix for 4 years, and it has not been one of my main markets for a very long time, right? Probably 2 years before COVID, so call it 2019. So my point to that is I still make money from the relationships, but that's true about everything, right? That's true about the relationship you build with a homeowner on the phone. When you're on the phone, a lot of people get into the numbers and start negotiating, trying to wheel and deal with the homeowner, and, like, they don't even know you or what you're doing, and, next thing you know, you're trying to negotiate them to a low price, right? So focusing more on the relationship, the conversation, and being sincere, that has always proved to be a better tactic. You come from a place of sales. What was it like converting from realtor, and I think you're still doing deals with realtors, correct?
Yeah. Mhm.
But
That's where
you've
my
also
most recent
done
deal came from.
the most recent came from realtor as well.
Yep.
And you've done however many deals direct to homeowner. What is the pros and cons that you've experienced between the 2? Like, is there
Yeah.
one you prefer? Is it really just like they both work? It's just function of finding enough time to work them both? What are your thoughts between the 2?
Yeah, I think the often conversation is that I have with people, especially like newer people that wanted to get into wholesaling. It's kind of like you have one of two things, right? You usually have more time than money or more money than time, and the select few are blessed to have both. So, I was under I had more time than money in the beginning. So the conversations with realtors are obviously a bit easier, because they're already representing someone who wants to sell their house, but they're also challenging because they're listed on the open market to hopefully get the most substantial amount of value they could possibly get. And the
Sure.
realtors are kind of protecting that, right? In a sense that like they're gatekeeping what the real price of the property should be based off of whatever they think it should be, right? It has nothing to do with what the real value is, just what they think it should be. So if you can't get past that realtor, you're kinda SOL, right?
Yeah.
The benefit of working direct to homeowner is the opposite. Like, you get direct to homeowner, obviously, there's usually payment for speed and convenience of working with, people like us, cash buyers, etcetera. So there's a lot of ease in that, and again, you get to build rapport and relationship through that as well before making those, like, lower offers, like you were
Yep.
saying. So preference, honestly, I think if you have the means to do it, I think there's a good balance of both. Um, I think obviously realtors are free. You can dial as many realtors as you want on the open MLS. There are you're gonna accrue costs trying to find off market deals.
Yep.
So it's just I think it's your threshold of what you're willing to spend and or how much time that you have. But there's also free ways, man, like you've taught before, the social media method that you can find deals off market just
Oh, yeah.
using Facebook, which I've done a few times as well. So
Yeah, listen, and again, this just goes back. Most people try to take a YouTube University approach. There's 62 different ways people are teaching on YouTube. There's no congruencies, no one's holding your hand. I'm not even saying those 62 are wrong, but if you just are trying the best you can, again, it goes back to just like knowledge versus wisdom. If you're just trying to do it because you know the process of doing it, it's like a recipe, right? Like, the recipe needs 4 eggs, and it needs flour, and it needs salt, but you don't know the measurements, and you don't know in what sequence that you wanna add these things, and should stuff be cooked, like, not having someone showing you how to bake that cake, so to speak, is really a detriment because there is a lot of different ways to do this at very low cost. I mean, I literally am looking at my own business right now, and we have really high cost on some of our marketing, and we're debating whether we want to get rid of it to just go into a lower cost, wider volume lead flow, right? And I'm 18 years in the space and I'm still trying to figure out always what is the best. I pride myself on being someone that is the tip of the spear. So I'll go try things for everybody and then I'll bring it back like, hey, this really works, or hey, this didn't really work. Don't do it. Because
Right.
then you might ask, hey, should I do this thing? And I realized it didn't work. I'll tell you no. But the reality is it's an ever fluid business, right? Like there is a small handful of people, very small, and they have been around about the same amount of time I've been around, that literally have stuck to the same thing, doing the same thing every day, same marketing strategy, etc. And it has worked for them. For the most part, 99% of our space should diversify what we're doing.
Yep.
On market, off market, free and paid.
Agreed. And again, back to the YouTube University, the challenge is, and I think we all kind of face this in the beginning, is without a coach, it's so easy to get shiny object syndrome. Like you
Mhm.
said, everyone has the right answer. Everything that you see on YouTube is possible and tangible. But if you're kind of just trying one of everything, you're never going to get anywhere. And like I'm guilty of it. When I first got into coaching, like not necessarily under your advisement, but like I bought every comping tool. I bought, everything imaginable. And
Right.
then still through the first year, it was like, okay, should I go try to learn tax deeds and should I try this and that? And so like not having a coach to guide you and just tell you like, hey dude, like just chill out, you know, which I think we've had to have that conversation quite a few times. It I think it's just a lot of time wasted. And people always say time is money. So from a coaching aspect, like you can go do the YouTube University, but you're gonna spend a lot of wasted time just filtering, finally trying to find what works for you, when the reality is all of them would work if you just stay true to one and kinda go, head on.
And give yourself the runway. Like
Yep.
you can't. Too often I see everyone start to measure themselves 30 days in, 60 days in, 90 days in, and they measure themselves, they critique themselves, they judge themselves, or they judge, they point fingers, the market, the interest rates, the this, the that. You didn't even give yourself enough time to find the success, right? It's
Mm,
the classic book that was written in the image of like that guy 3 feet from gold, or the little image of the guy in a tunnel,
yep.
like an inch away from diamonds, and then he turns around and leaves. Is that's it. That's always it. It's right when it's like you need to make one last call, right? Like every sales coach has always said, it's always the 101st call. You set out to do 100 calls, make one more, because it's always that call that gets you the deal.
Right.
Very briefly, let's talk about reilive.co. What is meant to you, what you see is going on in the community. I built it at the end of last year to launch this year. What is happening with REI Live? Let's talk a little bit about reilive.co.
Well, first of all, I wish you had invented it when I first started.
Yeah, I get
You
it.
know?
I get it.
Man. No, I mean, realistically, there's just so much value there, just being able to have, I think we have at this point 10 calls a week,
Yeah.
so 10 live calls where you're able to transfer the phone over live to someone with, 10 years, 18 years of experience, 20 years of experience, a collective amount between everyone that's coaching, 40 years of experience in real estate. It's again, I just wish it was there when I first started, because being able
Yep.
to transfer you, or transfer Anthony, a homeowner and or an agent, just say, "Hey, man, can you take over this deal for me and close it?" Like, oh, man. Again, I can't go back 2 years, but so I'll reminisce on that later, but
Yeah.
just the value from a new person or even a seasoned person that not only needs help just closing the deal, that might not have the skills of a closer or again, 18 years of experience, but also the value of the disposition side. Like
Mhm.
I found out 5, 6 deals in, like I don't want to do disposition. I don't want to do both because it both takes so much time. Like acquisitions and dispositions need, in my opinion, like their own category.
Yep.
So the fact that you're able to assist in whatever deals that we contract it and help us disposition. And not only that, but through that, we get to leverage your name along the way. you know,
Totally.
it's there's so much value in that. And I mean, feel like I've kind of hung on your coattails doing that since I've started anyway. And now you've just given people the opportunity to do it as well. So
Well,
it's just
and as you
super
should. I mean,
value.
listen, for those that don't know what reilive.co, and the running joke is it really is .co. I'm not mispronouncing it. I couldn't afford the M, right? I couldn't afford the M. So reilive.co, if you haven't seen it, heard about it, been a part of it, check it out. but it is literally $200 a month to have up to 10 calls a week, live in person, not just coaching, but actively doing the deals with you, right? Negotiating the deal, comping the deal. Lean on me and my team, my general manager and myself run the calls. Anthony runs the calls, and we are actively helping you go get your first deal or second deal or gain consistency. But the reason why I wanted to do it is I didn't want to get rich off of people anymore. And I did that. Like I said, like you said, right? You wish you had it when it was, 2 years ago. And I've spent a decade charging $10, $15, $20,000 for coaching. And I just said, God literally spoke to me and said, dude, do more deals, right? That's where I ended 2024. Do more deals. And I could have just built my business bigger, right? Spent more money, created more acquisition teams, or I could just do it with people. And yeah, I'm giving up 50%, but so's the other side. But now I'm doing more deals and I'm listening to what was told to me. And I just say, this is such a better way to win with people and get rich with people versus getting rich off people. And it just feels good. It feels way better. And I enjoy it, right? I mean, we literally, after this podcast, we literally have an REI live call to go do this exact thing, right? And then there's a premium version where I'll actually buy you guys leads, right? Where I'm actually spending money as part of the membership to buy you direct to homeowner leads. So again, if you just go to reilive.co, there's a jumpstart version, then there's a premium version, doesn't matter, $200 or $400. But guys, it really is it impacts me to make an impact on you guys by getting you guys these deals, right? That's the idea, is to get rich with you, not just get rich off you.
That's right.
So, brother, this journey is not even over with us. We have a lot longer to go. It's going to be
That's
fun.
right.
We're going to go through a lot. Hopefully most of it is just amazing, on an amazing
Right.
trajectory. But as we both know, business is business, right? You take the good with the bad. So
That's right. Yes, sir.
I appreciate you. Love you, dude. Love your family. Love to see what you've done, the commitment you've made to your family, first and foremost, but also to your own business, which is a part of your family. And so, everyone go follow Anthony Cota. He is just a go-giver. He's there for you. Anthony Cota, Cota Creative Capital, is also his handle. And so just, go check him out. But I appreciate you coming on the Science Flipping Show.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Love you, man. Appreciate
Love you
everything
too.
you guys have done.
If this was helpful and you think a person or two could use this information or needs to hear this, make sure you share it with two of your friends. See you guys on the next episode. Peace.
Peace out, bro.